Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. Today, we have Justin Wolfe, who's a seasoned litigator in Atlanta, Georgia, and has helped hundreds of accident victims there in the state of Georgia. Now, I'm not going to get into all your resume, Justin, because I feel like you can tell your story better than anybody, but I want to thank you for being on our show today.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. You know, and we were talking, you said, I've heard you interview a lot of whales and everything, and I'm not that big, but this is to teach, this podcast is to help lawyers, and not just high volume lawyers, but lawyers. There's a lot of young lawyers out there, or people are thinking about starting a practice. And I've talked to you, the things that you are doing are very smart and very economical, and people need to hear this. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, I just want you to tell your story. How'd you get into law? Tell me your journey to where you are now.
Sure. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, one where it's the type of place where you're riding down the road and strangers are waving at you as you drive by. I know you're from North Carolina. You probably know what that's like. And I went to University of South Carolina for undergrad, and then to John Marshall Law School for law school. And I'll say one of the things that I did a lot different than many lawyers when they're in law school, or law students rather, when they're in law school, is I focus a lot more on the practical side of internships rather than getting so involved in student organizations, because my thought process was, we're here certainly to learn the law and the theory of how to think like a lawyer, but ultimately we all want to be lawyers. So why not go ahead and start getting to know the people who I will probably be working with in the future. So I had some really great internships with some great Atlanta law firms and also some judges, and then worked for some boutique law firms in Atlanta before just a few years ago.
And so you started your own practice in 2018, is that right?
Yes.
You know, I always just tell a story. I started my first law firm with $2,500. So I did. I did it. That's all I had. So if I'd had $3,500, I would have started with that, but I only had $2,500. So that was what I started. Did you have a big bankroll, or did you just start out with,
I was always pretty conscientious about saving money, but I will tell you, I was very, very fortunate when I went out on my own. It kind of happened a little bit serendipitously. I was working at a firm that had been around over 30 years, just two partners. They, at the time, were probably the best workers' comp firm in the state of Georgia. And one of them decided to retire, and they asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I think I'm ready to start my own firm. And they said, well, perfect. We want you to take your entire caseload with you. So,
how about that?
And now we worked out an arrangement, obviously, but I was very blessed. Now, I will tell you something, though. It sounds great, and it was, but going from 0 to 100, as a newly minted solo practitioner at that time, was absolutely overwhelming. So when it rains, it pours. You better have an umbrella.
Yeah.
So,
is there anything that you wish, looking back, which is always 2020 is always, always nice, but it's never available to us. What would you give advice to somebody starting their own law practice, though? A mistake or two that you think you probably made that you wish you could keep somebody else from making?
I would say go ahead as soon as you can, right out of the gate, and get all of your letter templates with merge fields lined up early on, because if you find yourself typing any letter that really could be done with merge fields through your case management software, you're wasting precious time. So I'd say, that's one thing, but I'd say in general, getting all your systems, everything out of the way that you can before that sort of grand opening occurs. I did the best I could, but I will say I probably could have gotten some other things out of the way too. But most importantly, getting those letter templates, especially having all the new client documents and all of the letters of representation, the medical records requests, all of that, you can get all that organized before you open your doors.
So you're in Atlanta, and I know you started out with those cases that you took with you, but I'm sure you had to pay a hefty fee split when you got rid of them. But those cases run out. I mean, sooner or later, attrition, it happens. I mean,
Yes.
And so you did have the luxury of having some cash flow while that was happening. So tell me, you're in Atlanta, man. It is like one of the top, I'd say at least 5 or 10, saturated markets in the country for PI lawyers. I mean, it's right up there with New York and Las Vegas and LA and, Miami. It's just a very cutthroat, competitive market. I mean, it just is. So what did you do to start bringing in cases?
Well, first things first, every lawyer should always keep track of the clients they've represented, even when you're an associate. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of associate attorneys think that doesn't apply to them. And that's not true, because even though you're the associate, you still have an attorney-client relationship. And so I always made sure to keep a list of all my clients, and then also everybody from the moment that I was in law school on, all the lawyers, judges, everyone. So when it came time for me to start my law firm, I made sure that everybody who I had ever dealt with knew it. And once they all found out, I ended up getting a lot of case referrals from there. And so that has been a tremendous source of business for me.
So you build up a Rolodex list, whatever you want to call it. It won't really Rolodex, but you build up a list of all the judges, lawyers that you came in contact with, all your prior clients, and this is pretty cool, because this is something for some people to think about. You actually got a duty to keep those names. So if you leave, you can do a conflicts check, but on the other side, you got a database. And I cannot stress the importance. I tell lawyers, I tell anybody, you can take away everything I got, but the only one thing I want to keep is my list, because I can take that list, I can write them, I can call them, and I can build back up a practice overnight. What I'm saying is that the list is way undervalued. I know, not law firms, but I know companies that have bought other companies just for their list, and then actually liquidate the company, dissolve it, because they really just bought the company for the list. That's how important lists are. You know what I'm saying? And most lawyers overlook that because they're trying to figure out how to go out and get people that don't even know or had no knowledge of them. So I think you were very smart. You were taking people that you had relationships or knew you, or you knew them, and then you created this database. So what did you do once you got this database?
First thing I did is everyone's birthday, at least, I don't have everybody's birthday, but for every birthday I had, I put it on my calendar. If you ever read Dale Carnegie's, I believe it was in Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, he talks about how one of the most important days, if not the most important day for every person, is their birthday. And, you'd be surprised how many people go the entire day of their birthday and they may not even hear happy birthday from their family members. Yep. So when they hear it from their lawyer or former lawyer, it can mean so much more than you can imagine.
Ken Hardison here, president and founder of PILMA, Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. I want you to mark your calendars for September the 7th through the 9th. We're going to have an internet boot camp for lawyers. We call it the Lawyers Internet Domination Boot Camp. And it's going to be virtual, so you don't have to travel. 3 afternoons from 12:30 to 5:30. And if you can't make one of the sessions, you'll get full recordings of every speaker. So here's just some of the samples, some of the things you're going to be covering. Luke Russell is going to talk to you about how to win in the new era of Facebook advertising and how to target when Facebook is regularly reducing targeting options. Seth Price is going to talk to you about the 5 things you need to be doing in SEO to make more money. And I'm going to be talking to you about how to protect yourself and your law firm from cybersecurity attacks. Did you know that they have grown from over 67% in the last 3 years? Tanner Jones will also be talking about how to dominate your local market with agile social media marketing. And we have a special keynote, Dennis Yu, who is the godfather of how to test your Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram ads on $1 a day. It's a secret that he has shared with me and our Pilma friends, and now he's going to share it with you. So if this sounds like something you're interested, go to pilma.org/internet bootcamp, or go to the end of the notes of this presentation. Thanks. Yeah, you're right. I used to send birthday cards, and I would get, I don't know how many times, but at least 3 or 4 times a year, I would get people call me and say, I just want you to know you're the only person that sent me a birthday card. And I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And now I'm seeing some lawyers, Justin, are actually they have this software or programs or whatever where you can record a happy birthday. You can sing happy birthday to them and then shoot it out, and it goes straight to the voicemail. And then when they open up the voicemail, you're singing happy birthday to them. If I was practicing, I probably would do that, because I think that's even adding a more personal touch. And something you did, if I remember correctly, is you actually text a lot of these people if you got their cell numbers, don't you?
I do. And I have what I use is an account, a Google Voice account, so that if I don't have time to send that client a text, or rather that if it comes to be near the end of the day and that text hasn't been sent, one of my assistants is there to log in and send that on my behalf, so that we don't leave any client behind.
That's very smart. And so I would take it, you get a lot of business from referrals then, right?
Yes. Referrals from former clients, other lawyers, medical professionals, you name it.
Yeah. Do you do anything else to help to work this list as far as, trying to stay on the top of their mind awareness?
So we'll do some email blast periodically. We have a quarterly newsletter that we do. I will say one thing about the quarterly newsletter that I do a little bit different than some lawyers is I will include in there some things that I think the clients would actually be interested in. The problem with a lot of the newsletters that lawyers send out is they're sending out legal stories or practice things that may be interesting to somebody like you or I, but to a lay person, they could care less.
This is a great point, Justin. I've been preaching that for 20 years, is that you don't want no more than 20-25% about law in a newsletter, because people don't care. It's boring. I used to put puzzles in mine, a recipe, a picture of me doing something, playing with my dog, something about me personally, so that when they met me in the grocery store, they'd ask me how my daughter was doing or my pet was doing, or, somebody that I might not even recognize. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, people, you want something that's going to capture their attention, like whatever's going on, top of mind awareness, but not legal stuff. I call it legal mumbo jumbo. It just, if you got some law that's changing and it's affect them, and you can write it in 5th grade level, maybe. But yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And I see, just like you do, that so many lawyers are talking about the law and the court cases or different things like that, and people just don't care until you tell them they should care while you're in the middle of their case. Then they might care, but otherwise they don't care. All right. So what kind of advice would you give? We talked about one thing, but like, what kind of marketing advice would you give young lawyers who don't have a big bank account? What would you tell them?
Well, I'd say client outreach and grassroots effort is very important. You need to eat lunch with as many other lawyers as you possibly can, attend as many events as you can, work on those lists. So there, for example, in each state, you may have a medical board that has a composite of chiropractors, and you can compile a list of all the chiropractors in your area and go through those, start calling them. If you read some sales books of some of the top salespeople, you'll notice that some of those folks are making 100 calls in a day. So if you're starting your own practice and you don't have clients, your biggest asset is time.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started out, I got my shingle in '83. I was in a small town, as you alluded to earlier, and I went to every lawyer in town. And if I couldn't get them to eat lunch with me, which I couldn't even afford to take them lunch probably, but I go to their office, see if I could come by and say, listen, I'll take anything you don't want. If you got any work for me, I'll take it. And it was amazing. A lot of lawyers sent me a lot of I'm not gonna say it was great stuff, but some of it I turned into great stuff, and some of it, at least it was a way to make a living. You know what I mean? And I started building my list,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I think that's smart. And the Kairos is a good way, and then get all your family and friends, because as one lawyer once told me, Justin, your enemies ain't gonna hire you anyway, right? It's gonna be your friends and family. So if you don't have a list, like if you just start right out of law school, get everybody, all your family members and everybody and all your friends. I mean, we've got this Facebook. Go through Facebook and see if you can make a list from your friends. I mean, my gosh, the ones that are true friends, not just the fake. You know what I'm saying? But
Sure.
But I just think there's so many opportunities out there that people, just don't do it. And listen, it's all about relationships anyway, when you get down to it. If you think about it, people are going to hire lawyers they know, like, and trust. I've said that for years, and if they remember you, and that's what you're doing a real good job, is keeping yourself in front of them with the birthdays and the newsletters and the texting and all this stuff,
Yeah.
So
I would interject one thing. I'd say that when you do get prepared to start spending money on marketing material and you actually have a marketing budget, from my experience, it's going to be off putting those dollars into what's known as evergreen content. For example, the website, your logo, things that are not going to be changing for maybe ever or a very long time. If you start to do things like spend money on direct mail, that's a potentially one-off event where you may not see any ROI at all from that.
Right. Well, good deal, man. Well, listen, anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
Sure. I'd say that for the young lawyers out there who are interested in building their own firms, start planning early, long before you're ready to do it. And then the second thing would be that one day you won't be a young lawyer. So don't forget that it's best to pay it forward, it back, to the new generation of younger lawyers.
Yeah, I agree. And that's I had a gentleman do that with me. He let me ride around with him to court. He just took me underneath his wing, and he was probably the best trial lawyer I've ever sat in a car with. I mean, he was that good at cross-examination. The best cross-examiner I've ever seen. Better than all these guys that are getting me as a bucks. He really was. I'm not gonna say he was the best direct examiner, but cross-examiner, he just had a natural gift, and I learned a lot from him. Really did. Well, listen, thank you so much, Justin, for being here and sharing this with the people, the lawyers out there who are thinking about starting their own practice. And this lets them know that they can do it. I'm not going to say it's easy, and I don't think you would say it's easy, but it can be done. But you gave us some really good tips, practical stuff that you can do. And yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking time. If anybody wants to get up with you, Justin, and pick your brain, what's the best way for them to do it?
I appreciate you having me. Yeah, I'd recommend just going to my law going to my law firm's website, has all the contact information. It's Wolfe, WOLFE, Law Group, GA.com.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.